August 1491, deep in the jungles of Central America, the night pulsed with drums. Smoke curled upward through the canopy, swallowing the stars. Beneath a pyramid lit by hundreds of torches, a queen in golden feathers lifted her hands toward the sky. She was called Ixchel, priestess, ruler, and widow. The empire she commanded stretched farther than the eye could see, built not by iron or wheel, but by human devotion. And yet, as she gazed into the fire, she knew something was coming. Something vast, unseen, and unstoppable. The air was heavy with prophecy. Her astronomers had seen signs in the heavens. A great bird of metal crossing the sky, carrying men with thunder in their hands. To her court, these were omens. To her, they were nightmares. For centuries, her people had believed they were the heart of the world, the children of the sun. But the sun, that night, flickered like a dying flame. The queen's voice broke through the drumming. "When the strangers arrive," she whispered, "they will not come as men, but as gods." Her guards looked to one another, unsure if she was warning them or cursing them. But this story did not begin with her. Long before Columbus ever lost his way, empires had already risen and fallen across the Americas. Vast cities, golden roads, and temples so tall they touched the clouds. They ruled with order, faith, and blood. And then they vanished. Take the city of Cahokia, a name few remember. 1,000 years ago, it stood near the Mississippi, larger than London at the time. Grand plazas, pyramids of earth, thousands of homes arranged in perfect symmetry. Its people traded seashells from the Gulf and copper from the Great Lakes. But one day, the fires stopped burning. The songs ended. The people disappeared, leaving only mounds and silence. Historians argue over what happened: famine, war, or a divine curse. But local legends whisper something darker. They say a queen turned her back on the gods, that her tears poisoned the river, and the earth swallowed the city whole. Maybe it's just a story, or maybe every myth hides a truth too terrible to speak aloud. Far to the south, another kingdom rose from the jungles: the Maya, masters of mathematics, astronomy, and blood. They carved time itself into stone. Every eclipse, every solstice, every breath of the cosmos, calculated. To them, history was not a line but a circle, and within that circle, destiny never died. It only waited to begin again. But what happens when destiny collides with greed? In the 1400s, whispers began of men from beyond the horizon, pale-skinned, armored, bearing crosses and fire. They called themselves explorers. To the empires of the New World, they were omens made flesh. The Aztecs saw them in dreams, cities of gold burning under foreign suns. And when Hernán Cortés finally came ashore, the prophecy felt complete. But not all were blind to danger. In the valley of Tenochtitlan, under a sky the color of ash, a young noblewoman watched the invaders march. Her name was Malinal, daughter of a high priest, fluent in the languages of the empire. When Cortés demanded a translator, she was offered as tribute, a gift, a weapon. She walked into the Spanish camp barefoot, her face calm, her heart burning. They called her La Malinche, and through her, the fall of an empire began. It's easy to call her a traitor. Easier still to forget she had no choice. In her words, two worlds met, and only one would survive. Each secret she whispered to the Spaniards cracked another stone from the Aztec throne. But behind every betrayal was survival. Behind every smile was terror. They say one night, as Cortés slept beside her, she dreamt of a city drowned in blood, the pyramids aflame, children taken as offerings to foreign gods. She woke trembling, whispering prayers to both the old gods and the new, because by then, even she didn't know which world she belonged to anymore. When the war finally came, it was not fought by swords alone. It was fought by faith, by fear, and by the ghosts of forgotten kingdoms. The Aztecs believed they were chosen by the gods of war. The Spaniards believed they carried the one true cross. And in between, the jungle burned. But what if it wasn't conquest that ended these empires? What if they were already dying, their faith cracking long before the ships appeared? The Mayan kings had turned their sacred wars into spectacle. The priests demanded more blood, more temples, more proof that they still controlled the heavens. Perhaps the gods had grown tired of their noise. When the rains stopped, the rivers turned to dust. When the people prayed, the gods stayed silent. And so they built higher, carved deeper, bled more, until there was nothing left to give. And then came silence. In that silence, new voices rose. Secret ones, hidden ones, the women behind the thrones, the healers, the priestesses, the scribes who recorded the end of an age. In one temple wall, archaeologists found a strange carving. A woman standing between two suns, her hands outstretched, her face erased. Was she forgotten or protected? Because some stories were never meant to be found. Imagine this. You're standing in a jungle centuries later. The vines have swallowed the temples. The birds have replaced the priests. And as you brush away the moss, you see it. A face carved in stone. Half sun, half moon, watching, waiting, and you realize they didn't vanish. They were buried. But who buried them? Their enemies? Or themselves? The empires of the New World didn't fall in a single moment. They faded slowly, tragically. 1,000 quiet deaths beneath the noise of conquest. Each city left behind a whisper. Remember us. We were here. We dreamed. We built. We bled. And for centuries, no one did. Until now. Because what if the first empires of the Americas weren't lost, just hidden beneath our feet? What if their legacy still shapes the world you live in, from the crops you eat to the cities you walk through? And what if the true story of these forgotten kingdoms isn't about conquest, but about survival? The night before the Spanish fleet set sail, a storm rose over the Atlantic. Sailors claimed they saw lights flickering beneath the waves, cities glowing underwater, like the spirits of the drowned. Maybe it was lightning. Or maybe the ghosts of the lost empires were watching. The morning after the storm, the world changed forever. In 1492, when Columbus touched the shores of the Caribbean, he believed he had reached the edge of Asia. He couldn't have imagined that beneath those forests lay civilizations older than most of Europe's cathedrals, cities of stone, astronomy, and bloodlines so ancient their names had become prayers. But conquest doesn't always begin with swords. Sometimes it begins with stories. The Spanish told the natives they came as messengers of God. But as gold filled their ships, the message changed. And for every idol torn down, for every temple burned, something sacred was lost. Knowledge, language, and memory. Entire libraries of bark paper codices went up in flames. Each page contained centuries of science, medicine, and philosophy, erased in hours. Yet the land remembered. Deep in the Andes, the Inca Empire thrived, a kingdom without wheels, iron, or written words, yet capable of feats that still defy explanation. Their roads cut through mountains, their bridges swung over canyons, their cities aligned perfectly with the stars. Cusco, their capital, was called the navel of the world. But the secret of their power wasn't stone or gold. It was loyalty. Every Inca believed the Sapa Inca, their ruler, was the son of the sun itself. To disobey him was to defy the heavens. Until one man did. His name was Atahualpa, the last emperor. He came to power through blood. Brother against brother, city against city. By the time the Spaniards arrived, the empire was fractured. And when Francisco Pizarro offered peace, Atahualpa accepted. not out of trust, but out of arrogance. He believed no man could threaten the child of the sun. He was wrong. At Cajamarca, the Spanish invited him to a feast. He arrived unarmed, dressed in gold. When the priest handed him a Bible and told him it was the word of God, Atahualpa lifted it to his ear. Silence. He threw it to the ground. The cannons roared. In minutes, thousands of his guards were slaughtered. The emperor was taken in chains. To buy his freedom, he promised a ransom so vast it would fill a room with gold. He kept his word. They did not. The night before his execution, Atahualpa looked to the sky and whispered, "The sun will not rise again." But it did. Only this time, it rose over ashes. Yet even as the empires crumbled, something refused to die. Across the continent, small kingdoms continued to resist. Hidden in forests, caves, and mountains, women became keepers of memory, passing forbidden stories through song and ritual. A mother singing to her child by the fire might be teaching the history of a fallen god. A carved pot might hide a language long banned. For centuries, the world believed these empires were lost. But archaeology tells another story. Beneath modern cities, beneath highways, schools, and homes, lie the bones of civilizations so advanced, they still puzzle scientists today, and sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. In 2021, LiDAR scans of the Amazon rainforest revealed something extraordinary. Entire cities hidden under the canopy, complete with roads, canals, and pyramids. Not primitive, sophisticated, organized, alive. It wasn't a wilderness. It was a civilization swallowed by time. The new world, it seems, was never new at all. Maybe that's the greatest betrayal of history. The way we forget. The way we call something lost, simply because we stopped looking. Imagine standing before a stone carved 1,000 years ago, tracing its symbols with your fingertips. You can almost hear the voices behind it. Queens, priests, dreamers, rebels. Their worlds ended, but their stories didn't. They linger in the soil, in our blood, in our myths. Because maybe the Americas were not discovered, but rediscovered. And maybe every empire that fell still echoes in the nations we see today. In our languages, our faiths, our hunger for power, and our fear of forgetting. Centuries later, a poet from Mexico wrote, "We are the children of both gods, the conqueror and the conquered." A truth born from pain and survival. So when you hear the wind sweep through the ruins of Tikal or Machu Picchu, listen closely. It's not just air, it's memory. It's the whisper of an empire that refuses to die. The drums that once called warriors now call us to remember. Because before America, before Europe, before history itself was written in ink, it was written in stone, in blood, and in dreams, and somewhere deep in the jungle. The lost empires are still waiting to be found, and that was just part one of their untold story. Subscribe so you don't miss what came next.